When athletic directors begin the search for a new head coach, they're looking for a leader who checks the boxes and can elevate the program to the next level. Eric Peterson is the right man for the job and is no stranger to turning programs around. He helped USD to its first conference title in the D1 era in his first stint at South Dakota, and then did the same thing at Utah State when the Aggies went to 3 straight NCAA tournaments.
The process, while this process might have seemed quick, it was not rushed at all. President Gestring and I were extremely focused on the attributes and characteristics of what we were looking for in our next head men's basketball coach, and Eric, without a doubt, checked all the boxes and more.
Our next USD men's basketball head coach and alumnus, Eric Peterson.
South Dakota are Summit League champions again. It's a three-peat for the Coyotes. USD reigns in Sioux Falls.
How do you replace a coach that has taken the program where it had never been before?
For South Dakota, the dream is now a reality. The Yotes move on to the Sweet 16 for the first time in program history.
But today is just another great day to be a Coyote. I feel like I said that just about 3 weeks ago.
With that, I'm sure everyone is dying to hear from your new coach. I would like to introduce to you Karius.
Brandon played collegiate basketball at Nebraska, spent 5 years playing professional basketball overseas, and was a part of former USD head coach Craig Smith's staff for 3 years prior to joining South Dakota. U-Bell was with Craig Smith and Eric Peterson at Utah State and followed them to Utah, where he was the director of scouting last season.
Yeah, known about USD for a long time. Played at Nebraska, played for Craig Smith. He was my assistant coach my senior year. So when I was playing overseas, stayed in touch with him. We became really, really close as a player. So when he went to USD, obviously I was following their success during his time as a head coach. Then my playing career ended, and I kind of got hooked up with Coach Smith at Utah State. Got to work for him there for 2 years, and then 1 year at Utah, where obviously I was working really, really closely with Coach Peterson. We got to be really close, great friends, worked really closely together on quite a few things. And so, just had built great relationships with him. And when he took the head job, he called me, asked if I'd be interested in it. Had to talk with my wife, looked at a few different things, and kind of it was a no-brainer at the end of the day to become an assistant coach, moving back to the Midwest. Unbelievable facilities, unbelievable situation. Coach Peterson's won here before, knows what it takes to win. And I think it's a great setup, and we're set up for success here. So, obviously had to talk a few things over with the wife about looking into housing, looking into jobs and stuff like that. But as in terms of a career move, no-brainer that way. So the transition process from when asked if I'd be interested, obviously then you go through kind of interview process, talking things over with the family, things like that. When it was finally decided, like, all right, we're all in, they were all in, that was kind of a crazy week. Accepted the job officially, and then that next day, or actually that same day, was going recruiting. So it was an open period, so literally I was in Salt Lake City, found a flight from Salt Lake City to Indianapolis for some recruiting events, was there that weekend, flew from Indy back to South Dakota, and that next Monday was my first day in the office. It was my first day ever in South Dakota. Coach Kasperbauer brought me a bunch of gear, stuff to wear while we were recruiting. So it was a little bit of a whirlwind those first couple weeks, kind of getting my bearings, and obviously a big transition, but it's been a ton of fun, great people, great environment. So it's been an easy transition, but for sure those first couple weeks, it was a lot going on. Yeah, I mean, it's been fun. Getting to work out with the guys, obviously that first month or so when they were around, and getting to know them. I think we have a really, really good group of kids. Good guys on and off the court. Obviously we have, I think, a lot of talent, but they're fun to work with. They want to get better, and that makes things so much easier in terms of just workouts, being on the court, being around. That portion of it's great, because at the end of the day, that's why we're here, is for the student athletes, to get them better, to achieve their personal goals, whatever they need or want, that's why we're here. So that's great to have a great group of kids. But then, a huge reason why I took the job was knowing Coach Peterson and the type of people that he would surround himself with. And I just knew that we would be like-minded in terms of, just what we value in day-to-day life and basketball too. But that doesn't mean we're always going to agree on everything. But just the type of people and the type of families that I knew he was going to bring in kind of just put me at ease, not knowing maybe who he was going to hire necessarily, but I just knew the type of people who he was going to hire. So, never really worried about any of that, and it's been a fun group to work with, both staff and players, for sure. Yeah, I kind of knew I always wanted to at least try coaching. I thought it would be something that I would be really, really interested in. As a player, I was always into film, into the game plan, and really kind of took that part of it seriously. I wouldn't say I was an unbelievable athlete or the most talented guy on the court, so I did always have to try and find advantages that way. So I always kind of valued that and took a huge interest in it. And so, once I got a taste of it, obviously with Coach Smith at Utah State, just was like, yep, this is where I want to be. So, yeah, I always kind of knew I wanted to try and wanted to be a coach. And when that opportunity came, I jumped at it, and here we are today. So. Yeah, we do staff meetings at the Pizza Ranch, so I've loved my time in South Dakota so far. I think the biggest thing to me has been the people, and that's within the athletic department, around the university, in the town. Everybody's been welcoming, open, and wants to get to know us, and I want to get to know them. And I think the way that the university and the athletic department is set up. Obviously, it's a tight-knit community within the town, but I think our athletic department's a tight-knit community as well. Just the office vibe has been unbelievable every day. You walk in and everybody's happy to see you, wants to know what you're doing, wants to see, do you want to grab dinner later? And that's something that I think is really, really unique. It's not everywhere. So I've been to the Brick House, been to OLC, been everywhere in town, had a lot of good food, but I think most importantly spent time with a lot of really good people. And you can kind of already tell that you're going to build some great friendships here that will last for a really long time.
Most Coyote fans know Casey from his playing days here at USD. After graduating from USD, Casper Bauer went overseas to play professionally for a few years. He came back to USD in 2019 as the Director of Ops before being promoted to assistant coach the next season.
Yeah, for sure. Got here in 2012. That was my freshman season, and graduated in 2016. So Dave Boots and his staff recruited me out of high school, and took a brief stint away from USD for 2 years. I went overseas. The year was 2016-17 I went overseas. 17-18 I lived in Des Moines and worked on basketball player development. And then I was hired in April of 2018 to be the Director of Basketball Operations. And since then I've been here. I've worn a bunch of different hats in the 4 years, but I was director of basketball operations for 2 years, and I've been assistant coach for 2 years. Yeah, it was a unique situation, obviously. My first reaction when I heard that it was going to be Eric Peterson was just excitement for him, because obviously Coach Petey and I have a relationship. He coached me for my last 2 years in college when he was an assistant here under Craig Smith. So I was really excited for him and his family. That was kind of my first reaction. And then, of course, when he gets to campus, he's got all these responsibilities, like the media responsibilities, and going around town, going around the campus, meeting people. You know, obviously there's a lot of new faces from the last time he was here. So it was trying to find that balance of making sure that I give him space to meet with people and do all his media responsibilities, but also make sure that he knows that, you know, I want to be on staff still, and I want to be retained if I could. So during that period, I don't know if it was 3-4 weeks when he was trying to figure out who he was going to hire as a staff. I just kind of took the approach that I was going to try to control the controllable as much as possible. You know, I wanted to make sure I was there for Petey and anything that he needed, recruiting-wise, scheduling-wise, camps, whatever it was, I wanted to make sure I was there for him. And then, you know, naturally, there's just always a little bit of a waiting game, and that's okay. And so when I did get the call, you know, that he wanted to retain me, again, you know, it was just, I was really excited. There's no better feeling than, you know, to have a head coach tell you that they believe in you and they'd like you to stay on staff. So I was just really excited during that time. A lot of work to be done when he was hired, and then when he hired me as well. So the main focus, and he'll tell you this too, the main focus was on our current players and continuing to build that relationship with them. And, you know, with it doesn't matter if there's coaching changes or not, any offseason there's going to be some players that want to, you know, explore other opportunities, and there's other players that really want to stick it out. And so, you know, having those conversations, being really open about it, and seeing where everybody's head is at. That was responsibility number one for me when I was hired. And after we had those conversations, and really those conversations are always going on, then you recruit, you know, the spots that you need to fill. So I would say recruiting was probably priority number one at the time. And again, recruiting back the current team was definitely 1A. And then 1B was filling those new roster spots.
Pat comes to USD after 11 seasons in Omaha and nearly 30 years of coaching experience. Prior to his stint at Omaha, Eberhardt was the head men's basketball coach for Colorado State University Pueblo from 2005 to 2011. He started his coaching career in 1990. Before his coaching career started, Eberhardt was a standout guard for Adams State from 1986 to 1991.
My name is Pat Eberhardt, and I'm the assistant men's basketball coach. Coach Peterson and I kind of go back when he was in the league. I was also in the league at that time. We were assisting our pass cross during the recruiting process. One night he gave me a call. He said, "Hey, I might have an opportunity to be the head coach at South Dakota. Would you have any interest in coming along and being an assistant?" And I said, "Yeah, for sure. I would definitely like to do that." So that's how it really got off the ground. The process was a little bit longer, but I was excited about just our conversations about how he wanted to run his program, the things he wanted to do here, and got me really excited about being here. I accepted the job April 7th, which was a Thursday, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. On April 8th, I had to go recruiting for South Dakota. Didn't have any gear, didn't have anything. Met Coach Peterson, Coach Kasperbauer, and Coach Ubel at the hotel in Indianapolis. They gave me a couple shirts, and so it began. So yeah, that part was a little bit quick. Got back home to Omaha, then we had to figure out, just some family type things. And then the next week I was down here. I came down while school was still going on, I came down every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because that's when we had our workouts. So I was here for 3 days a week and stayed in a hotel, and then back to Omaha, then back again. So we did some traveling. My daughter was graduating from high school at that point in time. We had some graduation parties and all that kind of stuff going on, and then the graduation itself. So it had been kind of a whirlwind, just kind of, trying to get things going. Yeah, Coach Peterson was the main reason. I think his vision of where he would like to take South Dakota basketball was exciting. I think he is about relationships. He's about culture. I think that those things were really exciting. I think that what the group that was coming back for this year, it was phenomenal. And I just think that Coach Peterson he's the main reason why I came. I think that he's a unique guy in this business, and I think he's on the rise. I knew that I wanted to coach as soon as I was done playing college basketball. I played at Adams State University in Alamosa, Colorado, and when I was done, I was done. I wanted to get into coaching. Stayed there as a student assistant for 1 year, and then went back to Denver, where I'm originally from, and got into high school coaching for 2 years. I was very, very blessed in the fact that after 2 years of high school, after the high school season was over, the college basketball season was still kind of going on. I made up my mind that I wanted to be a college coach. So I had a friend of mine who was an assistant at Colorado Christian University. And I told him, hey, you don't have to pay me anything. I just want to come over. I want to learn. I'll help with the scouts for the rest of the year or whatever. And so I got to do that, and then was going to volunteer there for the following year. Well, the head coach leaves, my buddy gets the head job, so now I'm an assistant coach at Colorado Christian University, and that's how it really all started for me. I was there for 2 years, and then went down to University of Southern Colorado, worked there for 4 years, went to Colorado State University in Fort Collins, worked there for 4 years, went back to Pueblo, CSU Pueblo, and now at that time, and was the head coach for 6 years, and then the last 11 in Omaha.
Casey comes to USD from Minnesota Duluth, where he was an assistant coach for the Bulldogs. Before Minnesota Duluth, Casey was an assistant coach at the University of Mary. Before getting into coaching, Brueggemann played 4 seasons of college basketball at Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota.
So I think you got to first go back to my background growing up. My dad was a coach. He was a girls basketball coach. So grew up in the gym, and that's always felt like home to me. So it was really natural for me to play college basketball. And I actually picked the spot where I was going to go play because of the coach, and knowing that he could help me get into college coaching after I was done playing. So his name was Rich Glass. He spent 20 years coaching at the University of North Dakota. So I knew he had some good connections. After I got done playing for 4 years, I was lucky enough to have some good people in my corner that helped me get a graduate assistant job at the University of Mary after I was done playing. So as a graduate assistant at the Division II level, you basically get to do everything. You get to scout for an opponent, you get to run workouts, you get to do everything a regular assistant would do. And you get to do some of the other stuff like planning travel, doing laundry, sweeping the floor before practice, anything and everything really in those 2 years. And after that, I really feel grateful for that opportunity that Joe Cattell gave me to be a coach and grad assistant at Mary. And that helped me get my next job at the University of Minnesota Duluth. So I remember I was driving back from Missouri. My best friend had just gotten married, and I got a message from Coach Peterson. He had gotten a new number when he made his transition to Utah, so he's like, hey, are you still at this number? I'm like, yep. Hit me up and asked me, do you have any interest in being in the operations position? And before he texted me, I would have said no. But after I got that text from him, I started to think, I'm like, this is one of the small handful of guys that I knew I wanted to work for one day. Later that night, we got on the phone, and I think by the next morning, I was ready to take the job. For me, it's never really about the title or the role. It's about being around really good people who are trying to do great things. And I knew going to work for Coach Peterson, whether that was in a video coordinator role, assistant role, graduate assistant role, manager role, Dobo role, it wasn't really going to matter because I knew I was going to learn, and I knew I was going to be around really great people, and I knew we were going to be striving to do great things. So that was big for me. And it's been an adjustment, yeah, going into the operations role, but you kind of take everything in stride. I'm really lucky there's a lot of patience around me and a lot of help from the volleyball staff to the women's basketball staff to all the other people within our athletic department have really helped me out and have helped make that transition easier going into the operations role. There's some different responsibilities, but Coach Peterson was pretty clear that, hey, you're going to come here, you're going to have a great role in this program, and we're going to do some really cool things.